The morning of June 10th dawned like any other in Willow Creek. Birds sang their cheerful tunes. The scent of freshly baked bread wafted from Mrs. Gable's bakery. Yet an unnatural stillness soon crept over the idyllic town. Mr. Arthur Pendleton, the wealthy town benefactor, was found dead. He lay in his grand study, a room usually filled with his booming laughter. Now, only a chilling silence remained. The news spread like wildfire through the usually peaceful streets. Doors were locked earlier than usual. Whispers replaced friendly greetings. Willow Creek, once a haven of tranquility, was now gripped by fear and disbelief. Who could commit such a terrible act in their midst? The study was a scene of grim order, almost too neat. Mr. Pendleton sat slumped in his large leather chair. A single ornate letter opener lay on the polished mahogany desk beside him. It was stained with a dark crimson hue. There were no signs of a struggle, no forced entry. It seemed the victim knew his attacker. This detail sent a fresh wave of unease through the investigators. Detective Miles Corbin, a man known for his sharp eyes, surveyed the room. He noted the expensive art on the walls. He saw the rows of leather-bound books. He felt the heavy silence of a life abruptly ended. Something was terribly wrong here. The townsfolk gathered in hushed groups at the general store. They spoke of Mr. Pendleton's generosity. They remembered his kindness to the local school. He had funded the new park. He had supported every local charity. Yet beneath the surface of admiration, darker currents stirred. Had he made enemies in his business dealings? Were there jealousies hidden behind polite smiles? Everyone had an opinion, a theory, but no one had any real answers. The shock was palpable. The community felt violated. The peace of Willow Creek had been shattered into a million pieces, like a broken mirror reflecting their sudden fear. Detective Corbin addressed the small crowd outside the Pendleton estate. His voice was calm but firm. He promised a thorough investigation. He vowed to bring the killer to justice. No stone will be left unturned, he declared. His gaze swept over the anxious faces. He saw fear. He saw suspicion. He also saw something else, something he couldn't quite name. It was a subtle undercurrent, a hidden story waiting to be told. The detective knew this case would be complex. It would test his skills. It would challenge the very fabric of this seemingly quiet town. The setup had begun, though no one knew its intricate design yet. Living on the edge of Willow Creek was Thomas Ashton. He was a quiet artist, known for his melancholic landscapes. Thomas kept mostly to himself. His small cottage was filled with canvases and the scent of oil paints. He rarely ventured into the town center, preferring solitude. However, a few weeks before the murder, Thomas had a public disagreement with Mr. Pendleton. It was over a small plot of land. Pendleton wanted it for development. Thomas wished it to remain wild, a source of inspiration for his paintings. The argument was heated. Witnesses remembered harsh words exchanged. Now those words echoed ominously. This past dispute, once a minor town gossip item, now cast a dark shadow. Suddenly, Thomas Ashton was a person of interest. He was the outsider. He had a motive, however slight it might seem. Whispers about the reclusive artist grew louder. People recalled his brooding nature. They spoke of his solitary walks at odd hours. The narrative began to shift. The image of a gentle artist started to crack. In its place, a more sinister picture was being painted by fear and suspicion. Thomas, unaware of the storm brewing, continued his work, his mind lost in colors and light, not the darkness descending upon him. Then the evidence began to surface damningly. A distinctive palette knife, one Thomas often used, was found near the Pendleton estate. It was cunningly hidden, yet discovered by a diligent search team. Later, a witness claimed to have seen someone resembling Thomas walking away from Pendleton's house late that night. The description was vague, but it fit Thomas well enough. His fingerprints, they said, were found on a discarded sketchpad near the back gate. Each piece of evidence was like a new nail in a coffin. Thomas's quiet life was being systematically dismantled piece by unseen hands. Thomas protested his innocence, his voice filled with genuine disbelief. He explained he had been home all night, working on a new painting. He had no reason to harm Mr. Pendleton. The argument, he insisted, was a misunderstanding, long forgotten. But his pleas fell on deaf ears. The evidence seemed too strong. His alibi was weak. Who could confirm he was alone in his secluded cottage? His friends, few as they were, began to doubt him. The weight of the town's suspicion pressed down on him. Thomas felt the unseen walls of a carefully constructed frame closing in, suffocating him with its injustice. Detective Corbin, a man of logic and fact, focused his attention on Thomas Ashton. The case against the artist appeared straightforward. Motive, opportunity, and now physical evidence. It all pointed in one direction. The townsfolk, eager for a resolution, accepted this narrative. It was easier to blame the outsider. It restored a semblance of order to their shattered peace. Corbin, however, felt a nagging unease. It was too neat, too perfect. He prided himself on seeing beyond the obvious, yet here the obvious was almost blinding. He continued to press Thomas, hoping for a confession or a crack in his story. Thomas, facing imminent arrest, knew he had to act. The police seemed convinced of his guilt. He alone believed in his innocence. With a growing sense of desperation, he began his own quiet investigation. He revisited the day of the argument with Pendleton. He tried to recall every detail, every nuance. He thought about the people who knew Pendleton well. Who else might have harbored a grudge against the wealthy benefactor? He started to observe, to listen more carefully to the whispers. He noticed how certain people avoided eye contact when Pendleton's name was mentioned, or the murder. His discreet inquiries began to unearth unsettling truths. Mr. Pendleton, despite his philanthropic image, had a ruthless side. He had recently outmaneuvered a business rival, a Mr. Silas Blackwood, leaving him financially ruined. There was also a distant nephew, a young man named Julian, who had been expecting a large inheritance but was recently cut from Pendleton's will. And then there was Pendleton's secretive personal assistant, Miss Evelyn Thorne, who seemed to know more than she let on, her eyes always watchful. Each discovery added another layer of complexity. The web of possible suspects was growing wider, more tangled. The air in Willow Creek grew thick with unspoken accusations. Trust became a fragile commodity. Thomas noticed his neighbor, old Mrs. Henderson, who used to offer him tea, now quickly closed her curtains when she saw him. Even his only close friend Clara, who ran the local bookstore, seemed hesitant, her usual warmth replaced by a guarded pity. Was she part of this, or was she simply afraid? Thomas felt utterly alone, adrift in a sea of suspicion. Every friendly face now seemed like a potential mask, hiding unknown intentions. The pressure was immense. He knew he was running out of time. Just as Detective Corbin was preparing to formally charge Thomas, the artist stumbled upon something. It was a small, almost insignificant detail he had overlooked. While reviewing the sparse newspaper reports of the crime, he noticed a brief mention. Pendleton's prize-winning roses had been freshly watered the morning he was found. But Pendleton was famously meticulous. He always watered them himself in the late afternoon. This small inconsistency gnawed at Thomas. It was a tiny thread, but he pulled at it. Who else knew Pendleton's routine so intimately? Who had access to the gardens without raising suspicion? This new lead pointed away from him. It pointed towards someone within Pendleton's inner circle. Thomas remembered Miss Evelyn Thorne, the quiet, efficient assistant. She always seemed to be there in the background. She knew every detail of Pendleton's life. He recalled seeing her near the rose garden on several occasions, tending to them when Pendleton was away. With a surge of desperate energy, Thomas managed to discreetly search her small, tidy office at the Pendleton estate. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard, he found a small, stained gardening glove and a detailed ledger of Pendleton's shadier financial dealings, ones the public never knew. The confrontation was quiet, yet intensely dramatic. Detective Corbin, presented with Thomas's findings, was initially skeptical, but the evidence was compelling. Miss Thorne, when questioned again, finally broke. Her calm demeanor shattered. She confessed. Her motive was not greed, but a deep, long-held vendetta. Pendleton years ago had ruthlessly destroyed her father's business, leading to his ruin and early death. She had patiently waited, working her way into his trust, planning her revenge with meticulous care. Thomas Ashton was merely a convenient scapegoat, his recent argument with Pendleton a perfect piece of misdirection. The setup was her masterpiece. The truth sent another shockwave through Willow Creek. The real killer had been hiding in plain sight. She was the quiet assistant, the one no one ever suspected. Thomas Ashton was exonerated, his name cleared. The townsfolk, ashamed of their hasty judgment, offered awkward apologies. Detective Corbin acknowledged the artist's crucial role in solving the case. Willow Creek slowly began to heal. The silence that had fallen over the town was finally broken, replaced by the murmur of understanding and the slow return to peace. The final brushstroke had revealed the true picture. Dark and unexpected as it was, justice in its own complex way had been served.